Alright, so let's start on part 3 of the figure chart study. So, the figure chart illustrations follow are taken from actual transactions as they occurred on the New York Stock Exchange. Okay. There are transactions from the tape and from the averages, etc., etc., etc. The dates as explained, the best way to study these charts. Okay, okay. Alright, so this is called Bethlehem Steel. And one other thing I would say is that I know these stocks, they don't exist anymore. So one question comes, why are you studying something from the 1930s? Where it's 100 years. Get with the program. Things have changed. Everything. No, they haven't. What I'm studying in the Wyckoff course is, I tell you, it's 100% applicable today, and the principles are exactly the same. In fact, I caught like the tops and bottoms of swings, with ease, and the judgment basically improved. So similar to y'all, don't for a second think that okay, the new stuff works and the old stuff doesn't. It's actually the other way around. The new stuff doesn't work and the old stuff does. Alright, and that's because in directional markets, you still have the same participants. You only have two sides. You're buying and selling, and the only way to make money is to buy low and sell high. The way you make money is the same. The forces are the same, meaning buyers and sellers. The markets are essentially the same as well, and in terms of not being able to do anything other than go up and down. Um, and then the other thing that's the same is the data. The tape hasn't changed. What's changed? If you look at your DOM or the other shit called level two, all of that, or forget level two, that's all manipulated. But the point is, the tape, uh, in terms of transactions, is just price, volume, and a timestamp. So what's changed? Nothing. You know, that's the fact. Um, anyway, I don't want to go through the Bethlehem Steel. It shows 1.1 point movement beginning November 1930 from a very interesting study. What? Oh, forms a very interesting study. Within a range of about 25 points, there were a number of clearly defined manipulative movements with considerable forecasting value. Footnote: does manipulation matter? The answer is no. Does regulation matter? The answer is no. This is an interesting point here. If demand is reduced, supply is also reduced. So how do you have an inaccurate picture if wow. This is an important point. I think this may address dark pools as well. Um, all right. Starting the month of November at around the 70 level, which is A, and without considering what preceded it, there is a perpendicular decline of 12 points from 71 to 59. Alright, so that's B. So up on the chart, it goes down to B. And when it goes down to B, it creates an oversold condition. The price shows to bounce up and down in a narrow range, an indication that the force of the decline has been broken, and the stock may now be preparing for a rally or a recovery. After it touches 60 several times, it begins to rally, then it comes back to 60 for an eighth time, thus indicating a probable rally to 68. So what are we saying here? You're saying, where's my mouse? Alright, 1 second. So all he's saying is that you have a down move here, B is oversold, and you have a base. It does rally up, then it comes right back down until you have a base. Alright, so you have a base from B to C. Alright, then it comes, okay, and the reason why it projects to 68 is obvious, right? Because you have 8 count at 60. After completing a normal correction of the decline, that is a rally halfway back to 71. Alright. Prices fall back to 61 and recover to 66. Here, its tendency to level off and to go into a narrow range tells us that the rally is meeting supply. Okay. Level off and narrow range. So it's actually an apex right there. So that tightening formation. And the stock is probably being held. The stock is being held in the 64-66 range while the distribution is being completed. A line of 8 entries forms along the 66 level and stretches out to a count of 11 on a wider line of 65s, forecasting a slump to 58, possibly 55. Alright, so what's he saying? He's saying it went down, got oversold, and rallied halfway back. When it went halfway back, eventually price tightened and coiled and whatever at the halfway back level. When it was doing that, why is it the price was holding and this consolidation was long, like a gun? That's because price is purposely being held there. Why is it being held there? Because distribution is in process. What kind of distribution? Redistribution. Alright, so distribution doesn't really need to take place at the highest point in the chart. It can take place, redistribution can take place halfway back up or on a pullback. So you see, price goes here, pulls back. You know, there's some selling, but they bring it right back up. Hold it, sell more. Hold it, sell more. Hold it, sell more. Keep holding it in order to sell at decent prices, 65 and 66, in order to make a nice profit on the way down. At the last 65, it is on a hinge. Alright, so to maintain a stable or unchanged price level, it will be necessary to keep these opposing forces in constant equilibrium. Even a market controlled wholly by Simon pure investment buying and selling must still fluctuate and be respond to supply and demand. Okay. Anyway, so on F it hinges, and I'm not sure why I didn't say this, but on F it's on a springboard. Alright, because it's ready for sharp markdown. Prices slide off at C63G, pop at G. We have an indication that supply at 66 and 4 is coming into effect. The supply is coming into effect, kind of like cause and effect. Threatening a slump into a new low ground, further reaction at the beginning of December, the influence of the previous support points at 61 induced a brief rally into the range 64 to 66. Yeah. Okay. All he's saying is if price goes to support, like here, it went to support level, right? So you got a support level here, so it bounced. But the character and nature of that bounce from support was weak in terms of price and volume. And also because at support, you generally have bears taking their positions, a portion of their position off or just exiting or something. And you have long buyers come in. That's what creates the rally. So, when price movement begins to flatten out and then records a rally at 53, we read this to mean that there's evidence of sufficiently good demand to bring a recovery to 55. What's he talking about? Let's go back down. I think I missed something. Alright, so insufficient support is met. Okay. Oh, never mind. Uh-huh. Insufficient support is met on the return to I. Yeah. Okay. And the stock slumps through the first indicated objective. Here, a brief lateral movement fails to induce any rally, which tells us in advance that we may attempt a further drop in next objective. Alright, so let's just keep this straightforward. At F right here, it was on a springboard. It broke. It rallied to H. Why did it rally to H? Support off the 60 level. It rallied to H. What happened after that? Well, if because of that rally to H, you can actually count this level, this third from the high level, and see that it creates a pretty significant objective. So now when it comes back to I is also at a support level. Both here and here, I is at a support level, but they can't bounce. So at I, it couldn't bounce. Um, so the price continues to go down. So it goes down until it goes to K, which is 50. What happens at K? It reaches an oversold level. Why? Because it's at the bottom, it's climactic, etc., etc. The new phase begins here at K, as at B, the steep pitch of the decline from 66 F to K without intervening corrective rallies brings about an oversold correction. So I mean, it goes straight down. It's the biggest column, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is bigger than all these columns since the initial break to even the prior pullback. So it's definitely oversold. Creates an oversold condition when price movement begins to flatten out and then rebounds to 53. Okay. We read this as to mean that there's evidence of good demand to bring a recovery to 55, possibly 56. Ability to carry out the indication would have the effect of breaking the angle of the decline. Okay, so here's where he talks about preliminary support. JK. thus giving a tentatively bullish inference to be added to our other two indications, namely I, attainment of an objective on the downside, I, attainment of an objective to the downside, and 2, a suggestion of preliminary support at K. What? Okay, I don't know what preliminary support is, but that might be preliminary demand. That is in the Wyckoff thing. They call like, okay, before the final climax is some preliminary demand or something. So he's talking about preliminary support at K, and how it gets there is ability to carry out this indication would have an effect of breaking the. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's bounce here, okay, ding, 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 ding. That's how it's preliminary support. Okay. Also, it's climactic, weak secondary test, ability to rally. So he's saying, hence, when the price movement begins to flatten out and then records a rally to 53, we read this to mean that there's evidence of good demand, and that may identify some preliminary support, but whatever. Alright, so the rally to 55 dies out after exhausting the force of the demand at 50. I mean, it's about half, I think it was halfway back or a little more, and meets resistance on approach of formal trading range or shelf of congestion at IJ. However, during the balance of December, the bag is held practically at 50 for all the bears and income tax sellers. A quick sell-off to 48 under the previously established line of supports at 50 first implies the development of new weakness and further decline. Okay. So what's he talking about? He's talking about this dip right here. It breaks, but an immediate sharp recovery of this loss identifies it as a probable shakeout. And as this dip to 48 exhausts an indication of supply encounters across the line of 653s on the rally to 55, we look for another rebound. The stock now has been supported several times at 50, with one slip below that figure. If we consider the figure chart, you have a rise of 13 points. About the 1st of January, the stock seems to be on a hinge at 51. Okay. He's talking about this right here. Like right there. That point, that circle right there. Then rise to 54, but here at O, the price movement flattens out. We conclude that if it is ready to go up, it will not fall back to 50 again. A normal reaction from 54 would be to 51, about halfway back. When it continues to hesitate, forming a line of 653s, and next comes to a hinge at 53, we decide that its position has been critical, and that dip to 51 would imply weakness, while a further sag to 50 would cancel our expectations of an early advance. Hence, when the price actually does come down to 50 again, we must conclude the preparation for an advance has not been completed. Why? It pulled back more than halfway. It shouldn't have done that. Instead, there's a possibility that the 6-point reaction indicated by a line of 53 should be materially exceeded. Alright, well, what's he saying? He's saying over here at O, you're at a hinge. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 off of this base. So if it pulls back from here, It better not go below halfway, but it does. So when it does that, it's a bearish indication. So a steep drop. Hmm, is a shakeout. Okay, so after the shakeout, what's he doing? He's counting the line at 50. All right, that includes the blank space. All right, so he's really, that's a big base. So this also, he had a, you have base, you have shakeout, you have a rally, ding ding ding. You don't really know how much to include. So this will give you an idea that he did include the white space, the area of the breakout, and then it went all the way back to K. And if you do that, you're gonna have a pretty big count. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop here.